coming into this role of the CISO, I was kind of surprised how often CIOs in different organizations actually don't get cybersecurity. They don't get it. Look at these. There's definitely need for sharing. I was actually flew
Yeah.
back yesterday from a FSISA congress in Singapore, where sat together with a whole bunch of Asia Pac CISOs talking about this, and um, we're definitely strong if we share intel about
Mm,
things, and particularly about our third parties that we're concerned about.
mm,
And so we're trying to figure out ways and mechanisms to, how do we advance the controls and shields
mm,
around ourselves, and where we can we do that with our partners to make them more protected.
mm,
That definitely is a good thing to do. Look, I do think that you're right that it's been, cyber's been a sort of a black box, don't
mm,
understand it.
mm,
I've never, coming from the CEO background, I always thought that was funny. If I go relate to a story I told in my book, it was actually, going into HSBC, talking to Daryl, who's wrote my foreword, he as the global CIO. And then my boss at the time, who was the Asia Pac CIO, said, "Oh, David's going to do this 4-hour cyber briefing to our COO community of 65 next month." And I was like, "I am." And but I remember that was again my first month, and it set me up for success, because I then said, "Okay, how the hell do I brief 65 stakeholders, the COOs
mm.
that actually most of the CIOs report to, okay, for 4 hours on cybersecurity?" And so I did something very simple, which was I say, engage my team, because most of the team have never been involved with that level, and they were kind of afraid. And I said, no, we need to do this. We need to look at our defenses, do a live hack, talk about how the defenses work. And then the last hour will be me on stage with a microphone saying, I really believe in this idea about the human firewall. I really want us to be smart about cybersecurity. So therefore, I want to stand on stage. You can fire questions at me.
Mm.
I may embarrass myself that I don't know the answer, right? But however, that means we're going to be smarter about cybersecurity. We're going to have a dialogue about it. We'll get you the answers. And so I did this. It was a great hit. I didn't have to do this, repeat that sessions for CIOs and regulatory people and regulators and a whole bunch of people. But essentially what we did, we duplicated that session HSBC every month. It wasn't like a formal risk committee. We had 150, 130 people come up to just every month talk about cyber, and we actually say, we need your help, Byron. We need this division to help. We need, this is where we are. We're struggling with this. We need your help on this. And it was actually the point about being transparent, totally transparent, honest about where we are, and saying we need to get this done. Otherwise, you won't be able to, overcome these issues we're having as an
Sure.
organization.
Yeah.
That engaged everybody, and it worked so well because, people wanted to be engaged and wanted to be smarter about things versus, reading about it in a report. They wanted to
Yeah.
ask the questions. Yeah. So
Yeah. Sure.
I'm a big believer in that approach.
Yeah, for sure. And no, I spoke to Nigel Hedges from Chemist Warehouse recently, and he made a good point that CISO should be shared. He's a CISO himself, and he gets together with CISOs and talks about issues and challenges, and they work together. But I guess the execution of a cyber strategy is what, and this is what he said, is a competitive differentiator. And I tend to agree with him on that. The way that a company actually executes when there is a breach is something that you would, I guess, want to keep to yourself. But everything else is open slather, I guess, for sharing for sure. And I'm sure
Yeah,
that's something you would agree
it's
with as
it's
well.
been the traditional approach, right? Which is, if I
Yeah,
can outrun the wolf, right, then actually I'm not going to be eaten because someone else will be eaten. I
yeah,
think that actually has worked to a point, but I think, as the world goes into its polars, right, then we may need to
yeah,
think about this a little differently and think about how do we have some joint shields that we try to protect ourselves
yeah,
as a group rather than individually. I think there might be a better way to think about it, and that's a different paradigm
yeah.
from where we are, right? Because we can't outspend this, right? We can keep throwing
No.
money at it,
Mm.
but I think there's other ways of doing it. I can talk about that separately, but it's just not sustainable long term.
Yeah, for sure. Now, David, over the years, as a CEO and a CISO, you would have dealt with a lot of vendors, a lot of tech vendors, a lot of sales engineers, a lot of sales executives. Um, Now that you're retired, do you have any advice, I guess, for vendors who are dealing with CIOs and CISOs in Australia in terms of the way that they should approach their engagements? Because there are a lot of solutions out in the market. A lot of C-level tech people tell me that they don't have enough time to evaluate all of them. Um, Salespeople can be quite aggressive, which is normal. But is there any advice, any tips that you would have in hindsight for sales engineers and sales
So
execs who are dealing
a
with
great,
the C-suite?
yeah, Mate, it's a great question, and it was book number 3 I was going to write, and how to sell to the CIO and CISO, by the way.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I've had a number of vendors buy my book because as they see me speak, that they actually say, "I'm trying to understand the mindset of the CIO and CISO." And when you start talking about, the role of the CISO, the role of the CIO, how they get hired, what sort of brand do they have? What sort of person are they? Because there are different kinds of CIO and CISOs that exist in organizations, and they can be more transformational, more operational, et cetera, et cetera. Now, so to me, some basic questions is like, CIOs tend to have a sort of 2 to 3 year average life.
Yeah.
CISOs have 1 to 2 years average life. So if you need to ask
Yeah.
first question is, where is this person you're talking to in their career? Are they just started? Are they trying to prove themselves? Are they in the first 90 days, right? Are they at the end of their career? Are they therefore maybe more conservative or
Yeah.
not, or don't care? I mean, so I use the paradigm about you're in the elevator, right? Facing the elevator, and then the CIO and CISO are saying to themselves, do I open the door to move? Do I keep a door closed? Am I looking for up movement or down movement? And so as a vendor, they should be thinking about this and saying, look, I'm talking to Byron, and I know he don't really know enough about what his inner motivations are.
Mm.
Is he looking for something that's safe because he's worried about his career? Is he looking for something that's actually going to be a big hit and hit a 6, because he's looking for a big hit for his next job? Yeah. And so some of that thinking around the stakeholder management aspects of it are important. I think we also talk a bit about but for each of these stakeholders, who are their stakeholders and who influences them. So if you're a CIO or a CISO, who are they worried about within their business that actually can influence them? And so trying to understand that whole ecosystem, and then where does your solution fit into this? Okay, because I think if you think about this, and sort of I jokingly always talk about the fact that vendors are never in my 90-day plan. Okay, they never mentioned it, and I specifically have a 90-day plan across people, process, technology. The truth is, you will talk to specific vendors in your first 90 days, but you won't actually go and try to meet all of them, because all the vendors will want to knock on your door in their first 90 days because they're dying to see you. They heard about Brian
Yeah, because
coming,
you
and they
knew.
want
Yeah.
yeah. And then,
Yeah.
but then the real sweet spot is, I'm trying to understand. Okay, so is there an agenda? Is there a strategic roadmap that's there now, right? And what's the next roadmap look like? Because obviously, if there's a roadmap already in place, and you're trying to plug a product that you're ready in train, you're wasting your time. If it's too far out, 3 years out, then it could be speculative, may not be in your life cycle. And then there's a sweet spot around, okay, a bit more than 12 months, 15 months. That's person saying, okay, I'm really interested in this widget. Oh, okay. But I've got my radars up for ideas around whatever that is. That's where you'll get some traction from the CIO and CISOs wanting to say, actually, I'm interested in that topic. Talk to me about that. Tell us, what you're doing and why your solution is different and unique. Yeah, it's kind of tricky because you got to try to understand the agenda.
Yeah.
Asking to show me your strategy. They all ask that, right? Like, yeah, I'm not going to help that too much, because it's going to be things that are already committed for normally versus the ones that are being considered and on sort of backlog. And so if you get the backlog ones, then you're in a good place. But that takes relationship and a bit of trust and
Yeah, for sure.
and listening rather than trying to plug what I have.